All right, I'm going to read you the Hammer of Thor. When great dark clouds appear over the lands in the north and the rumbling of thunder can be heard on distant hills, the people sometimes remark that the clamor they hear is the approaching sound of the god Thor. The Norsemen revered and worshipped Thor for his many powers and attributes. The red-haired son of the god Odin and his wife Erda was tall, strong, and muscular. He was an imposing figure in the face of his enemies. Thor lived in Asgard, the home of the gods and goddesses, in the great palace called Bilskirnir, or Lightning. His association with lightning probably came from the time he spent with the gods Vingnir and Halora, who represented wings and heat. Thor's palace contained 540 rooms, where he entertained his guests with lavish entertainment and wonderful food. Thor possessed the mighty hammer Mjolnir, or the Crusher. He would throw his hammer at the frost giants in battle and send them running in fear. No matter how far Thor threw his hammer, it would always return to his hand. Mjolnir blazed with sparks of fire. It was said that Thor was not permitted to cross the rainbow into Asgard with the hammer in his hand, for fear that it would melt the beautiful ice bridge. I am the Thunderer. Here, in my Northland, my fastness and fortress, reign I forever. Here, amid icebergs, rule I the nations. This is my hammer, Mjolnir the mighty. Giants and sorcerers cannot withstand it. Saga of King Olaf, Longfellow. The Norse considered Mjolnir a sacred object, not only of battle, but of blessing. Just as Christians make the sign of the cross, the ancient Norse would cross themselves to make the sign of the hammer. The symbolic gesture was also used to bless a newborn infant or a newly married couple, and to bid a final farewell to a corpse on a funeral pyre. The countries of the north portrayed Thor in different ways. In Sweden, he was depicted wearing broad-rimmed floppy hat. Some believed that the roar of thunder during a storm was the sound of his chariot wheels rolling across the firmament of heaven. Others, like the German people, believed that the noise came from the pots and pans and kettles he tied to the sides of the chariot. Thor often traveled to Jotunheim, the land of the giants. The frost giants were badly behaved and thought nothing of provoking the gods and goddesses by sending frozen blasts of air into the world and destroying all vegetation crops. During one journey to subdue the giants, Thor and Loki came upon a valley shrouded in mist. It was very difficult to see anything around them. Stepping carefully through the fog, they found a peculiar dwelling that resembled a cave. Tired from their long journey, they decided to rest inside the mouth of the cave until morning. Imagine their surprise when they woke up the next morning and discovered that they had been sleeping in a frost giant's glove. Fortunately, the giant was not malicious and agreed to guide Thor and Loki to the great palatal fort in the land of giants. When they arrived at the fort, Thor addressed the king of Frost, who was Utgard Loki. He told the king that he had come to do battles with the giants, if necessary, to prevent them from troubling the gods and goddesses of Asgard. Utgard Loki was slightly amused at Thor's speech. I propose a contest, he told Thor. Then we can avoid battle with the mighty Thor and his hammer. Thor thought for a moment, and then he agreed. The first contest will be to see who can eat the most, a god or a giant, Utgard Loki said. Loki eagerly stepped up to the challenge. I'm so hungry, he declared. There is no one who can eat more than I can. The king called for a table to be piled with all kinds of meat. Then he summoned his cook from the kitchen and told him to sit at one end of the table while Loki sat at the other. He gave them a signal to begin eating. Loki devoured the meat in no time. But to his dismay, the cook had not only eaten the meat, but the wooden table as well. The next contest involved drinking. Utgard Loki filled an enormous ram's horn with a broth and brought it before Thor. If you can drink the entire contents of this horn in less than 3 gulps, you will win, he told him. Thor placed the horn to his lips and drank as much as he could. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not empty the horn. Reluctantly, he conceded defeat. Loki was instructed to run a race with a giant named Hugi. Hugi beat Loki without even making any effort. Thor was next challenged to lift Utgard Loki's cat, who weighed a great deal. Thor felt confident that he could perform this deed with little problems. After struggling for many minutes, however, he was able to raise the cat's paw off the ground. Utgard Loki smiled at the pair of gods. It seems to me that you have lost the contest, he told them. Apparently we have, Thor said angrily. Then Utgard Loki shook his head and laughed out loud. Mighty Thor, he began, I was warned of your arrival by one of the giants. Knowing that you were coming and that you were a fierce warrior, I created these challenges to be unfair. Loki's challenger in the eating contest was none other than Logi, or Wildfire. He ran his race with Thalfi, the fastest runner in the universe. When you attempted to drink from the horn, you were unaware that the bottom of the vessel was connected to the sea, and it would be replenished with liquid after every swallow. Even the cat you attempted to lift was none other than the serpent who circles Midgard and is anchored deep into the soils of the earth. So you see, no one could have won these contests. Thor was deeply angered by the frost giant's deception. He took out his hammer and attempted to throw it at the walls of the king's palace, but a great fog covered everything and made it impossible to see. Thor and Loki left the world of the frost giants, knowing that they had not completed their mission. They knew, however, that many more occasions would arise to do battle with the cunning giants in the future. So that's the end of the story. Now, I know my class has been emailing me a lot about the problems and solution. So in this one, I want you to think about this last paragraph, and I'm going to read it again when it comes to that solution, because I'm not sure if we've found one quite yet. Thor and Loki left the world of the frost giants, knowing that they had not completed their mission. They knew, however, this part's important, that many more occasions would arise to do battle with the cunning giants in the future. So, did they learn something still, even if there hasn't been a direct solution? Okay, that is the end of our story. You can fill out the rest of the Google Slides and then submit it to your teacher.